Since the reveal of Mario Kart World, Mario Kart has kind of been the hot thing to discuss. You have your track ranking videos for tracks that haven't even come out yet, trailer breakdowns. Before they revealed the tracks, you had at least 2 prediction videos. We wanted to try something that I don't hear people talking about very much: the controls. They're mentioned occasionally with Super Mario Kart, but I wanted to take a look at all of the games. I won't include the arcade games because I don't feel like going to the arcade, but at 1,000 subscribers I'll review one of the arcade games, or all of them. I could emulate it, but the steering wheel is kind of part of the experience. Let's begin. Super Mario Kart usually gets the brunt of the hate for its controls, but it isn't actually that bad. I should preface this by saying it's not a skill issue or whatever if you think the controls are bad for this specific game. If you think the controls suck, that just means you have good time management skills since you don't spend time getting good at Super Mario Kart. Wow, look at this loser. He didn't spend 10 hours playing fucking Super Mario Kart, the most nothing game ever. Don't use this as an excuse for other games, by the way. But Super Mario Kart's controls don't actually suck if you learn them. I wanted to go over why the controls are like this and some development history just because it's interesting. There's a big focus on making the karts in the game feel like go-karts in real life. They even said themselves in the interview I'm referencing that go-karts are hard. Go-karts being hard sometimes was kind of their intention. I went go-karting when I was like 10 at a friend's birthday party, so I don't remember it perfectly, but especially the turning I remember feeling somewhat similar to how standard turning works in this game, so I can kinda say that they captured the feeling. But Mario games aren't meant to focus on realism, so how does it control in game? It's fine. It's very different than current Mario Kart since drifting and turning are segregated, instead of always drifting for turns like modern Mario Kart. Drifting is good for really sharp turns, while standard turning is better for general turns. The controls are pretty slippery, so in Mario Circuit 3 for example, you are gonna have to drift perfectly in this section. And some of the tracks in this game aren't designed the best considering the controls, so you need to keep that in mind. But I don't think anyone would want to see this as the standard, you know. Let's go to Mario Kart 64. This is another game that gets criticism for its controls, albeit less than Super Mario Kart, and maybe controversially, I think it deserves it a little more than that game. The drifting is really wide and it's kind of annoying. And on 150, if you turn too much, you spit out, which is just complete ass. And if you want to go into a wall for some reason, you instantly accelerate to the max speed instead of doing what you normally do every other time you hit a wall where you lose all your speed. That was maliciously added to fuck people over, and that's evil. I'm making it sound like this is the worst controlling game ever, but honestly it isn't that bad. The controls certainly aren't great, but it's completely playable. As an upside compared to SMK, the track design is much better. Drift boosts were also introduced in this game. Technically they were in SMK, but come on, that doesn't really count. You wiggle the control stick to build up boosts, and to be honest, I don't find building up boosts to be very practical. Drifting is already really awkward, so it just messes up your lines. There isn't the split between normal turning and drifting like SMK had. It's more like the modern Mario Karts in that sense. I'd rank 64 below SMK. By the way, we'll be ranking these to see which game has the best and worst controls. Super Circuit is the other game that gets primarily shit on for its controls, and like Super, I don't think it's deserved. The controls are really hard to learn. I still probably suck, but I think I can give it a decent review. It depends on your character and their drifting. Luigi's the best in terms of controls, kind of. He's a little slippery, but according to the stats, he's the best controlling one. This game also has a mechanic where you slide if you drift too long, so you need to do super quick drifts so you don't fly off. You also get a boost if you drive straight after drifting for a while. This is more difficult to control than any other Mario Kart, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. The game controls well, even if it might take some getting used to. It's one of the most satisfying Mario Karts in terms of controls, and because of the physics, you can take some pretty wild shortcuts. I'd put it at the top of the list above Super. I've sung my praises for this game's controls before, and I still hold that sentiment. Yes, they are slippery, but that's actually a good thing in this case. Drifting is super wide, so dodging items is much easier, and it feels satisfying to swing your kart around, and the tracks help facilitate that. Yoshi Circuit is a perfect example of this kind of design. Normally, steering can help with certain turns, so that's also kind of back in a sense. The controls feel kind of wacky, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but it fits the kind of wacky nature of the game. While we're on the topic of drifting, let's talk about mini turbos. They work somewhat like they do in 64, but overall they're pretty different at the same time. You still rocket from side to side, but it's faster and feels better. And because it doesn't hinder your lines basically at all. Double Dash is the transition from classic Mario Kart to modern Mario Kart, and I think the controls somewhat reflect this. Okay, it's more complicated than that. It's still slippery and has the old style mini turbos, but feels more refined and smooth like the modern Mario Karts. It feels a bit closer to 8 than 64. I'm putting this at the top above Super Circuit. Now let's properly transition into modern Mario Kart with Mario Kart DS. Okay, I lied. This basically controls just like classic Mario Kart, depending on your vehicle, of course. Some vehicles have good turning, so it's more like the classic games. Some vehicles have bad drifting and good turning, so it feels more like the classic Mario Kart games where drifting and turning are in their own separate spheres. If you're on a pretty big turn, you should probably drift to build up the mini turbos. I'm not a competitive player, so I don't know about staking, but basically it allows you to have constant mini turbos. It's good for competitive. I don't really know what else to say. I'm not really qualified. This is also the first game to have its own karts. Some vehicles suck ass, others are good. The big heavy ones that have shit turning and shit drifting are the shit ones. The tracks don't really fuck with the controls that much besides Choco Island 2, which I would put more as a track thing rather than an issue with the controls. I'll put this above SMK. Mario Kart Wii was the first game to introduce bikes and inside drift and all that. To start, I'll talk about bikes and karts. Karts can have an orange spark, which allows them to have a longer boost. They also feel great to control besides that. They feel kind of floaty. It's hard to describe, but they feel smooth and generally great. It's worth mentioning that some tracks like Moonview Highway are basically impossible with karts. Most tracks were designed with bikes in mind. Speaking of bikes, they can wheelie, which is infinitely more useful. Sad that wheelies haven't come back since they make straightaways actually kind of fun. Instead of being bored by just holding down A, it's like, ooh, I get a speed boost. It's a mental thing. It's also just really good in general since a massive speed boost on demand is, you know, a massive speed boost on demand. Bikes being so much better than karts isn't really an issue because inside drifting bikes are just so fun. Being able to take super tight turns, getting the tightest line possible is so fun. There are also a lot of different karts and bikes and a lot are bad. Personally, I use Luigi on the Mach bike. I know Flame Runner is the meta, but I don't really like it. It feels very clunky and stiff to me. I'm not saying it's bad, I know it's objectively the best, I just don't like it. I'm not a competitive player, so I'm not really comfortable saying how good something is or what's worth using. I know a lot of this was complaining, but those are small issues. This is still one of the best controlling Mario Karts. I'll put it at the top. Mario Kart 7 is weird to evaluate. It's basically Diet 8 in terms of controls, but that's not really fair since 7 came out first. Insane, I know. But this game controls pretty well. You have the new mini turbos introduced in Wii, but no bikes, unfortunately. I would have liked them back, but I get they're hard to balance. They're standard Mario Kart controls, they're just good. But there's a new gimmick in this game. Gliding. By the way, I'm not going to talk about underwater, it's just the normal controls but a bit floatier. A lot of people say the glider is a lot better here than in 8, and yeah, it feels more premium, I guess. 8 Deluxe feels more normal, but in 7 it feels a bit weightier, so you can kind of feel the wind. Again, one of those things where it's a bit hard to explain. You can also keep yourself in the air longer, but I don't know how to do that. Overall, it's a solidly controlling Mario Kart, above Super Circuit. Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe control phenomenally. I'll exclusively be focusing on 8 Deluxe because it's the one most people care about, and since it's just the Wii U game but with more mechanics. I guess you don't have fire hopping, but who cares? The game introduces purple sparks, which give you an even longer boost compared to orange, and they're a good addition. Turning is like 7's turning, but more polished. There's also the addition of 200cc, which is really fast. 200cc is probably my preferred way to play, even if it can be a little jank. And in order to make some tracks playable on 200cc, there's brake drifting. Brake drifting's pretty cool. Holding brake slows you down way too much, but tapping it lets you keep most of your speed. Anti-gravity also changes the controls. Hitting other players or gravity boosters will make you spin. It can be a little jank with the knockback and stuff, but it's a fine mechanic. It also uses a different speed and handling stat, but I don't think anyone cares. Like the previous couple games, 8 has a variety of carts to choose from. They're balanced super well, even the worst car could still be used. And that includes the ones with horrible drifting if you do some shenanigans. Bagging is so fun when you're playing competitively. Everyone should do bagging, it's so good. Every character can also be used to good effect. Personally, I'm a PD main. Oh yeah, inside drift came back and it's bad. It's like super outside drift because you can't take any turns. It just sucks. I'd put 8 in the same tier as Wii. Now we're on to Mario Kart Tour. This is kind of a weird game to talk about, because the controls do kind of ruin the game, but they were also necessary. Ruins a stretch since the game's okay overall, but it plays itself. It can be debated whether that counts as the controls or not, but it probably does. All you do is tap the screen to use items. But at the same time, it would have been hard to make the game not play itself since it's on a phone. That also goes for the game being really slow. Like I said, I don't think the game is bad because it was designed for phones. But if you're evaluating its controls compared to the others, I don't think there's an argument for it ranking particularly high. There is a cool point system, but I'm not sure if that counts as the controls. And certain different vehicles give you different points, but again, that's not particularly control related. I don't think I could talk about too much more than that because the controls are very simple. It feels a bit weird to do this, but I feel like I have to put it below 64. I'm not going to end on a bad note, so here are my thoughts on the upcoming Mario Kart World. I have not played this game yet, so keep that in mind. I think the charge jump is pretty cool, kind of similar to the wheelie from Wii. They both give you speed on demand and will probably make straightaways less boring, for the same reason that I mentioned in the Wii section. But the height aspect is interesting. I could see a lot of cool skips being discovered. Rail grinding looks cool. Don't know how practical it'll be, but I'm looking forward to it. When I saw the rewind, I was a little scared, but apparently that's free roam and single player only. Can't really comment on much other than that. In terms of how I could see it in the ranking, it's either at the top or below 8 and Wii. And here's the list. The best is Wii, but just by a hair. 8 is equally good, but Inside Drift has more maneuverability. Those are my thoughts of the controls. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'm trying to do more creative video ideas, and I thought this would be cool. Sorry for the drought. I had exams and those took priority. Expect videos to come out a bit quicker. I have a couple other videos planned, Mario videos, maybe some Smash, general gaming discussion, etc. The etc. also means Pikmin. I want to do some Pikmin content as well. Feel free to suggest topics or videos you'd like to see in the comments. I will still make ranking videos, but only if there's like a purpose behind them. That means I won't do ranking every level in Mario 1 or whatever. Probably means no more Mario Kart rankings for a bit, with the exception of a redo of my Super Mario Kart ranking. I also try not to upload 2 videos on the same topic too close to each other, so keep that in mind. That's all I have to say. Bye.